It's me, Haley. You probably know that the Bible is full of stories, but they're not just random stories. They're true stories about God's big plan to rescue people from sin and death. God's plan centers on one person, His Son, Jesus. The story you're about to hear is the story that changed everything. It's how Jesus saved sinners like you and me.
Jesus came with His disciples to a place called Gethsemane. He said to them, "Sit here while I go over there and pray." Jesus took Peter and the two sons of Zebedee with him, and He became very sad and troubled. He said to them, "I am overcome with sadness. Wait here and stay awake with me."
Jesus went a little farther. He fell face down and prayed to God, "Father, if it is possible, take this suffering away from me, but only if it is a part of your plan." Jesus came back and found the disciples asleep. He said, "Peter, couldn't you stay awake with me but for 1 hour?" Again, Jesus went away and prayed to God, and again, Jesus found His disciples sleeping. He said to them, "Get up, I'm going to be betrayed."
Suddenly, Judas, one of the disciples, arrived. A large crowd carrying swords and clubs was with him. Judas kissed Jesus so the crowd would know who he was. The men grabbed Jesus and arrested him. Jesus asked them, "Am I a criminal?" All of Jesus' followers ran away. The men who arrested Jesus led him to the house of Caiaphas, the high priest. The priests and high council were trying to find a reason to kill Jesus, but they could not. The high priest asked, "Are you the Messiah, the Son of God?" Jesus replied, "Yes, that's right." The high priest said, "Aha! He has blasphemed or spoken against God." Jesus told the truth, but Caiaphas and the council did not want to believe Jesus was God's son. They said Jesus was lying, but Jesus cannot lie. The crowd answered, "He deserves to die." Then they spit in Jesus' face and beat him.
The next morning, the chief priests and elders led Jesus to Pilate, the governor. "Are you the king of the Jews?" Pilate asked. "Yes, that's right," Jesus replied. The men accused Jesus of various crimes, but Jesus said nothing. "What should I do with Jesus the Messiah?" Pilate asked the crowd. They all answered, "Crucify him." He handed Jesus over to them and said, "Do whatever you want."
The governor's soldiers took off Jesus' clothes and put a scarlet robe on him. They made a crown of thorns and put it on his head. Then they mocked him. "Here is the King of the Jews." Then they beat him and led him away to be killed. The soldiers nailed Jesus to a cross. They put a sign above his head that said, "This is Jesus, the King of the Jews." Two criminals were crucified next to him. From noon until 3 in the afternoon, darkness covered the land. Then Jesus cried out, my God, why have you forsaken me?" Jesus shouted again with a loud voice, and then he died. Suddenly, the curtain in the sanctuary split in two, from top to bottom, and there was an earthquake. One of the men guarding Jesus' body said, "This man really was God's son." That evening, Jesus was buried in a rich man's tomb cut into a rock. A great stone was rolled in front of the tomb so that no one could steal Jesus' body.
3 days later, on the first day of the week, Mary Magdalene and the other Mary went to see the tomb. Suddenly there was an earthquake as the angel of the Lord came to the tomb. He rolled back the stone and was sitting on it. The guards were so afraid that they fainted. "I know you are looking for Jesus, but he is not here. He has been brought back to life just like he said he would. In fact, he is going ahead of you into Galilee." The women left the tomb quickly and with great joy. They ran to tell the disciples the news. Just then Jesus met them. "Good morning," he said. The women worshiped him. "Don't be afraid," Jesus told them. "Go, tell my brothers to meet me in Galilee. They will see me there."
The crucifixion and resurrection of Jesus is the center of the gospel. We deserve to die because of our sin, but Jesus died in our place. He was the blood sacrifice made once and for all for the forgiveness of sin. God was pleased with Jesus' sacrifice and raised Jesus from the dead to reign as king over all creation. We are forgiven only through Jesus.
Wow, this is the story of what Jesus did for us. It's the gospel, good news. But the story isn't over. God's plan didn't end with Jesus' death. As you heard, he was raised from the dead. Right now, Jesus is alive. He's sitting in heaven at the right hand of God, and one day he will come back to make all things right.